What's going on, AFK Army, and welcome back to the next video. And all I have to say is I didn't set out to break the construction skill. I just wanted to understand how the stability system actually worked. What were the principles that governed it? What made a structure hold or fail? At first, it was simple. Stack a few walls, throw on a roof, call it a day. But the deeper I went, the more the so-called building wisdom, the things that I heard, that I learned, or even seen firsthand, they stopped adding up. In the end, I uncovered something else entirely. A hidden rule that quietly controls every structure in DragonWilds. If you're planning to build anything more than a campfire lean-to, you're going to want to hear this. All right, so let's get testing some wall and foundations really quick. And we're just going to drop a regular square foundation right here. And we're going to drop a tier 2 and a tier 1 foundation, and we're going to test some different things on both of these. All right, so now that we've got our two separate foundations of each, what we're going to do is we're going to build some tier 1 walls on each one of the foundations and some tier 2 walls on each one of the foundations, and we're just going to build them up as high as it'll let us build them. So in the back here, we're going to go with the tier 1 walls. And there it is. That's the end of that. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed when we were building those up, but let's do it again on this other side right here. We'll build a little 90. At the base of building, you can see the wall color is green, and that is like how stable the wall is. It's a visual representation of how stable the wall is. And as we go up, we go from green, now we're getting into yellow, and you can see the one below it is green because it's a more stable structure, and then this one is yellow because it's going to be less stable. And then this one becomes a yellow on a yellow, and then a yellow on an orange. This is telling you, yeah, it's not going to last much longer than this, and these are both still going to be unstable. It's not going to change anything by adding more walls all the way around. And we'll do the same thing over here. We'll do tier 2 walls now on the tier 1 foundation. On the tier 2 walls, we didn't gain any additional height, but I don't know if you noticed this or not. When we were building the tier 2 walls, instead of having 2 greens like we did over here, these two were 2 greens, we went straight from green to yellow. Let's see if we'll do it again. Green, yellow. And again, just by building more walls and having, you know, more structure, we're not going to gain any stability. Now we'll do the same thing. We'll do some tier 1 walls on this tier 2 foundation here, and then see, look, let's check this one out now. Okay, 1, 2. You can see this is where it started to get yellow on the tier 1 foundations, but now we're still green, 4 up, still green, 5 up, 6. Now we're 1 wall higher than we were on the other foundation, and then we just got our first yellow. 7. Now we're orange, and we can't build any higher. And we'll just do it again on so everything's the same. So on the tier 2 foundations versus the tier 1 foundations, we are able to build significantly higher just by changing the foundation, but we didn't change the wall or the structure or anything like that. Now we'll do the same thing with the tier 2 walls on the tier 2 foundation and see if there's any change. Just by changing the base of the foundation that we're using, we're able to gain significantly more verticality without changing the walls or doing anything to it. And the other thing that I want to try is I want to know, do we gain any further stability by using beams instead? So we're going to use the tier 2 beams and the tier 1 beams. We're going to try them both. All we did was we just built a 4-post square foundation out of the tier 1 logs and out of the tier 2 log. So we got square foundations out of oak and ash. And let's just go ahead and try our same experiment we've been doing. And let's go to the walls, and back over here, we will add the tier 1 walls. And ooh, can't do it. Okay, so now let's do it, and we'll just build up and we'll see how high we can go. We still did not gain anything over the ash foundation. Let's go ahead and true this up with another. And let's do it one more time with the tier 2 walls over here. And then now let's do it on the tier 2 foundation. Okay, so what does this tell us about the walls and the foundations and the type of material? Well, what it does tell us is the walls don't have anything to do with structural stability. The walls don't play into it. What plays into it is what material do you use for your base? That is the most important. Do you use an ash, a tier 1, or do you use oak, the tier 2? Now let's try and see if we can turn this up to 11. I'm going to clear this up a little bit. Okay, we got that first line of foundations out of the way just to kind of clear everything up for us. And so now here's what I want to find out, right? We'll start over here. And what I want to do is we're just going to take some ash beams and we're going to see if we can strengthen this thing by adding beams going up. Now let's do some 45-degree beam. Let's add X's. So we added X's on here and we aren't able to add any walls higher than what we already have. It's still unstable. Let's do one extra thing to this guy. All right, and so now that we've completely braced this wall, essentially, with a 45-degree thing going down the back, I want to know, did anything change yet? Has there been a change? Okay, we still did not gain anything. Let's add floors. Does adding 4 walls change anything? Okay, so that didn't change anything either. Just for the sake of argument, let's build another cribbing going down the other side. So there we go. So now we've got our 4 walls and 45-degree cribbing bracing this structure. Can we add another floor yet? Still can't add a floor, which means we probably cannot add a wall yet. Nothing changed. And now that everything is cribbed up, can we add a 45-degree beam to the back? No, we cannot. What about a roof? Can we put a roof on this? Nothing. So we can't add anything on this thing. Pretty much absolutely nothing changed by adding any of this. Let's try it on the oak beam foundation. So we'll do the same thing. We'll add floors. Now let's add our walls. And then over here, now that we've got our 4 walls and floors going all the way up, since we know that the tier 2 structures are stronger for the bases, let's see if we can add tier 2 going all the way up. Okay, so now we have both of our test subjects basically all cribbed up with 45-degree bracings going all the way down on 2 sides. And we've got our X pattern going all the way up. So if this was going to add any stability, we would know. And we still don't get anything. So can we put a roof on? That's another question. Still no. So if we delete a section here of material, now can we add a roof? I didn't expect that. I did not expect that having this beam going all the way up affected the ability to put a roof on. So now the question is, does the same hold true for the tier 2 foundation over here? Interesting. Interesting. And now if we build beams. Wow. Okay. 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 And that was as high as we could build it before, and we're just on the beams. Let's see. Yep, that's as high as we can go. That doesn't change anything. Let's see here. Okay. That works. And then so all we did was delete the floor on that one, and the roof is still only as high as it can go. But we had to have the beams before. If I get rid of the beams and I put some walls up, you still cannot add a roof. So the beams are what matters there. That is fascinating. Okay, so from our previous tests, we know that in a 1x1, we can only build these 5 high, right? And that's where we're at right now. We've got foundations. This is a 3x3 structure. And I've got also beams going down all the way in the middle, and then beams going up 5 high in the center. Now, if we were to add walls and floors in the center of this, does anything change if we're surrounded all the way around by floors, foundations, and etc.? So let's try that real quick. So we currently have 5 walls and 4 floors. We cannot add a floor to the outside, and we cannot add a floor to the middle. Does that change if we fill the center up? Nothing. Can we add beams? So we're back to where we started. We've got our 3x3 foundation that goes 3 high, except I took all of the supporting beams off around the outside and around the inside. I want to test one more thing. I want to test using tier 2 beams on a tier 2 foundation. Oh, that. I wasn't expecting that, because if you remember when we did just earlier, we did the tier 2 beams for the foundation, that 4 square foundation, and it let us go 8 high. But because we're using the tier 1 foundation, it won't let us go higher, even when we brace it with the oak logs. You see right here, this is the problem. I can see it now. It's not going to work. It's not attaching into the earth. You see, it's attaching to a tier 1 foundation, because we have the tier 1 foundations we are limited in how high we can build this just because we're using the tier 1 foundation, even though we're trying to supplement with tier 2 materials. Okay, well, what I was gonna do, and I just realized it's not gonna work. What I was gonna do, I wanted to see if I could use tier 2 materials on the inside, but if I do that, it's actually gonna change the dynamic of all of this, and I don't want to do that, because as I delete these foundations, if I have these guys anchored down with these beams, it's going to be basically become a tier 2 structure. Okay, I got one more thing I want to test. The thing I want to test and I want to know is what happens when I put a tier 1 foundation down and then a tier 2 foundation touching it versus a tier 2 foundation down with a tier 1 foundation adjacent. With the tier 2 foundations, we were able to build our walls 8 high. Now on this one, we put the tier 2 foundation down first. And if we do the back walls, what about this now? Okay. Wow. Okay. I'm assuming it's going to be the same for this. Okay, so with a tier 2 foundation next to a tier 1 foundation, the structural stability of the walls appears to be leaking over, but it knows that it's not a tier 2 foundation, so it lets you go one below. If we build 2 more next to this guy, okay, so basically what we're seeing here is the stability of the tier 2 foundation is strengthening the stability of the walls next to it, but there is a diminishing return on the stability. You can see across 2 foundations, it's 1 down. After those 2 foundations, it goes down another 1 until you get back to the original limit of the tier 1 foundation. So that pretty much wraps it up. If you guys are going to build anything in DragonWilds, the most important thing you need to know in advance is this. How tall you're planning to go determines the tier of foundation you need to start with. Tier 1 foundations cap out at 5 stories. Tier 2 goes to 8. Once the foundation is placed, there's no upgrading, no bracing, no workarounds that'll push you past that limit. Yes, higher tier foundations can lend a little extra stability to nearby structures, but with diminishing returns. If you're someone who cares about aesthetics, you're better off just committing to a single foundation type anyways and planning your height from the ground up. Start smart, build smart, and most importantly, do it right or do it twice. That's pretty much all I got for you guys in this video though. And if there's anything I missed that you guys think needs testing, drop it down in the comments and I might put together a part 2. Until next time, Scapers, I'll catch you in the world of Gillinor.